Hi, I'm Frank Scruggs, and I'm coming to you once again with another reading from the Haints of Georgie Todd. I think that you may find this reading interesting if you like the last reading. This one I'm picking up from about page 38. Okay. Renard, Georgie yelled, give me a ride. Renard, sitting in the dirty blue Pontiac executive, yelled back, where's your car? Over there, said Georgie. His car was parked in a parking lot surrounded by a small group of people now fighting with knives and bats. With little time to spare, Renard pulled up near Georgie, who jumped into the back seat of the sedan, followed unexpectedly by his friend Beaker. They drove slowly with Renard and passed several police cruisers headed toward the housing projects. Be cool, said Georgie as one of the police cars quietly followed the rest with its lights off and driving quietly down the street toward the scene. Renard smiled and said, hey man, that was almost prophetic advice. The drive toward Georgie's house was slow and seemed almost like an eternity, but was about 30 minutes. I'll go back tomorrow for my ride, said Georgie. Hey Renard, don't stop at my place, said Georgie. Beaker quietly whispered to him, there's a house on Olive Street we should check out. Georgie gave Renard the address. Renard said, I can't drop you off, but I can drop you off, but I won't come back for you. I got to go pick up my girl. We're going to catch the midnight flick at the Castle Theater. Renard dropped Georgie off at the address on Olive Street and quickly drove off. He was no more than 1 mile from his house on Taylor Street. The house on Olive Street was a 3-story house of Gothic design, surrounded by a wrought iron fence. Maybe 100 years ago or so, the house had been a stately manor on the prairie and had belonged to a candle and soap merchant. The house now loomed dark, sinister, on a block surrounded by fraternity houses that were brightly colored, displaying the Greek letters out of various Greek organizations that owned the houses. On the first floor, a dim light burned in the front window near the rickety porch swing. Beaker walked up the steps, followed by Georgie to the front door. Then he told Georgie to knock, and he complied, knocking loudly. In a few minutes, the door was opened by a very tall, red-headed woman with large breasts, who warmly and seductively invited them to come on in to the house. The two young men entered, and as they walked down a rather large hallway, the house seemed okay, almost quaint and charming. But Georgie wondered why he felt such a deep apprehension about the place, and wondered was this just the result of the tension arising from meeting new people, total strangers, or was it because of the big fight back at the projects? He thought aloud in his mind, no, there's something else. The something else was the house itself, despite the odor of marijuana and coconut incense that filled the air. The house smelled old and musty. The atmosphere of this place feels wrong. I just cannot quite put my finger on it, he thought. The hallway eventually led to a drawing room, which, despite the electric lights in the hallway, the drawing room was lit by kerosene hurricane lamps. Seated on a large overstuffed leather couch was a tiny blonde woman and a big muscular black man wearing a mohawk haircut. As he surveyed the room, he noticed that the big black man began rolling marijuana cigarettes on the large coffee table in front of him, and the petite blonde woman passed him crystal drinking glasses filled with an amber-colored liquor from a large crystal decanter on the coffee table next to a large bag of marijuana. Georgie's eyes were drawn to the pretty blonde-haired woman who wore a pixie-type haircut, but it accentuated her cute face. She invited Georgie to sit next to her between her and the large black man. She wore a red satin dress that Georgie first thought was a slip. But sitting down, he saw was an expensive satin dress which sat off her slender but shapely legs. He saw that she was also lightly tan. The suntan was rather unusual for central Illinois in January. The black man seemed a bit hard to describe since there was nothing really distinguishing about his features except for the mohawk haircut. The haircut made him look more intimidating and menacing. Georgie, conscious that he was nervously avoiding eye contact with the man, the very dark man smiled, flashing the whitest smile Georgie had ever seen. He was aware Georgie seemed afraid of him. Sometimes, young brothers, there are some people you should fear. Some people in this world can be quite dangerous and end you in a moment, said the big black man seated next to him. His words chilled Georgie through his entire being. Later, when he recounted the night to his friend Vic Wellington, Georgie said, "Vic, you know I'm not a punk, but there was something about that brother. When he spoke, I was chilled to the bone and damn near pissed on myself." More of this follows in the Haints of Georgie Todd, which you can pick up now at Amazon.com. Thank you for your time and have the best of days.